In this video I want to address a video made by Ramio 1983, who by and large doesn't seem to be a bad sort in actual fact, but he does seem to have certain anger management issues. So when you posted that comment on my channel page, I decided to post a link just above your comment where you can find some tips on anger management. It might help you, so no need to thank me for that. Anyway, that said, one of the things that annoyed me about your video, Ramio, is that you started off with this same assumption that a lot of people seem to share about atheists. And you kind of summarized that in your video by saying that in the face of belief in a higher power, an atheists seem to respond to that by saying, well, there is no evidence, we just happen to be, let's accept that and move on. Well, what you need to understand about atheists is that when they are talking to you, and Ramio in this case happens to be a Muslim, but the same goes for Christians or believers in other types of gods, is that the atheists see no reason whatsoever to believe in Allah, or in Yahweh, or Jehovah, or any of the other named little entities that lots of people seem to like to waste their whole lives worshipping. That doesn't mean that we don't believe in anything that might transcend our own reality, our own existence. There is definitely something greater than ourselves, even if it is just something as bland as the universe, or reality as a whole. Hey, that is still something that transcends us as individuals, and that is greater than us, that is, for want of a better expression, a higher being. So, don't tell us that we simply believe in nothing, and that we have no reason for existing. We atheists might find our own reasons for existing, and we might find our own reasons for thinking that we are in a privileged or special position within this universe. Except we don't need to refer to something supernatural or something that supposedly exists outside reality. Just think about that term for a moment actually. Existing outside reality. If it's outside reality, it's not real. Need I say more? Anyway, the funny thing is, when Ramio is talking about how special Earth and our planet is, he takes this very interesting kind of half-baked position between science on the one hand and religion on the other hand, and as a result ends up inevitably falling between two stools. So he starts off by saying that his belief, and remember this guy is a Muslim, so when he talks about his belief, he is not talking about his belief in something greater than ourselves. No, he's talking very specifically about his belief in Allah and Muhammad as his messenger, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. The validity of everything that's written in the Quran, and so on and so forth. That is what he believes in. And let anybody, this is a warning to anybody who likes to engage in a discussion or a dialogue with anybody who is theistic, do not allow yourself to be led down this garden path of starting to talk to somebody who believes in something extremely specific, so specific they even give it a name and they've written a book about it. And then, when they see and realize that what they think is evidence for the existence of their specific thing, that this thing they called God, that falls flat on its face, they try to lead you down this garden path, trying to make you prove that there is nothing greater than ourselves. No fuzzy entity out there that somehow transcends our existence. That is not what we're discussing here. We're discussing Allah and Muhammad as his messenger and the whole rest of the shebang. nothing else. And that is equally true for when we're having a dialogue with a Christian or a Hindu or anybody else who believes in something that they call gods. If you want me to address something other than your very specific idea of what God is, then you better tell me what else God is supposed to be. Because I do not have any such concept. To me, God is a combination of 3 letters and nothing more. You want to talk to me about God? Tell me what exactly you mean when you're talking about God. And then I'll be happy to rip it to shreds. But do not try to do this big switcheroo that Christians and Muslims and other believers are so fond of trying to dump the burden of proof onto people like us. Make a coherent case, and we'll answer that. If you don't make a coherent case, we're just going to sit here and laugh at you. That is what you deserve. So, Ramio proceeds, my belief is backed up with evidence. Now, it doesn't actually prove anything, or directly prove anything in terms of a higher power or a deity. No, Allah. Muhammad is his prophet. That's what you believe in. But it does prove something. It proves that we are special. We are special, alright. We are definitely unique in this universe. I can state that with absolute certainty. But being unique is not the same as being special in the sense that you occupy some particularly privileged position in this universe. And this gets even more interesting because Ramio then proceeds to give an example of a planet that is, in his words, many, many light years away. Now, we must understand, of course, the sort of experience that we human beings have of distances, of traveling, and our immediate experience of the universe, which is, we have to admit this, basically nothing more than being stuck almost two-dimensionally to the surface of a rather tiny little speck of dust floating through this universe. And our experience of depth extends to a couple of 100 feet into our atmosphere, and a little bit more since we've discovered powered flight. Well, whoop-de-doo to us. But even yesterday I was watching a program in which they were talking about the Voyager probes that we sent out, and how the Voyager probes would take 24 years to get to the outer planets such as Uranus and Neptune. 24 years it took them to get there. And they're still inside our solar system. There are stars that are so big compared to our sun that such a probe as Voyager would not even have left that one single star yet, let alone their planetary system. So what right do we have to say that we understand distances within this universe? And Ramio proceeds to illustrate his utter ignorance of the vastness of this universe even further when he proceeds later on in his video. For example, many, many light years away, he's talking about Gliese, this planet that they found a couple of years ago now, if I remember correctly, and that was supposedly of the sort of size that would make it comparable to Earth. in a sort of orbit around its star that would make it possible that there is liquid water, for example, on that planet. That is in the realm of possibility on this star. This star is 20 light years away. Let me just illustrate to you how puny 20 light years is, and how utterly ridiculous it is to infer anything about the universe as a whole on the basis of having observed something within a radius of 20 puny light years of this solar system. If this is 20 light years within our own very own galaxy, which is 100,000 light years across, that is right next door as far as we're concerned. And that is within our galaxy. Once you're starting to talk about intergalactic sort of distances, like, for example, the distance between us and our nearest neighboring galaxy, Andromeda, is 2.5 million light years. And that is only within our little cluster. That is still, as far as cosmic distances go, that is our neighborhood, our pad. When it comes to intergalactic distances, 20 light years fades away to absolutely nothing at all. And there you are, sitting there, making statements such as, we are a planet that is special. We are a species that is special. Yes, we are unmatched across this universe. That's what he said. Unmatched across this universe. Whoa. I'm glad you qualify that by adding thus far, because you are in for a fall, my friend. Now, don't get me wrong. When I heard about this hubris about the scientists who made claims about Gliese, and they did say things like they are almost 100% sure that there will be life on that planet, that did make me go, oh gee, how can you make such absurdly confident statements as a scientist? That isn't right. Now, observing that Gliese is in a position where there could be liquid water on that planet, and observing that, according to what we currently know about chemistry and how elements interact, that you would consider it highly likely that some sort of life had formed on that planet, is one thing. But making bold statements like saying that you are like 100% sure, he actually said 100% sure if I'm not mistaken, even though he then qualified that by saying it was his opinion, thankfully. But you know what journalists do when they hear scientists say anything with any sort of lack of caution? You know, how many times have we cured cancer already if we were to believe journalists, science journalists, who should know better? But to just illustrate how little understanding Ramio has of the distances involved in the universe, of the actual vastness of this universe. He sits there and quite blandly states, quite confidently, that, talking about Gliese here, the sun and the moon have no effect on that planet. The sun and the moon. The sun is our star. It's what Earth revolves around. And the moon is our satellite. It revolves around our planet. How did you think that it could have any effect whatsoever on Gliese, which is 20 light years away? 20 light years is puny, but in the sort of distances of solar systems, it is far. Yes, it certainly is far. And our sun and our moon would have no effect on that planet. It illustrates to me that in your mind you see the universe still, and this is obviously coming out subconsciously without you even realizing, but in your mind you still observe the universe as revolving around this planet. The Earth is the center and everything else revolves around it. Otherwise I cannot see for the life of me how you can make a statement like the sun and the moon have no effect on that planet. That planet is revolving around its own star. And it has a huge effect on that planet precisely because, as you observe, it always shows the same face to its star. That means that it is locked in this tidal, I forgot what the actual term is, it's tidal lock, where a satellite or a planet is under so much influence from the star or the object that it is revolving around, that it is in orbit around, that it has turned to always face the same way to that object. So even if I were generous enough to allow you, to grant you that you might have been talking, when you said sun, you might have been talking about the star that Gliese itself is revolving around, you are still not making sense. Rather than saying it has no effect on that planet, it has a huge effect on that planet. It puts it in a tidal lock. How much more effect can a star have on its planet? And even then, you still said moon. And even if you are not talking about our moon, it is clear that you have this strange concept about planets, that each of them have a moon and it revolves around that planet. I'm not sure how exactly are you picturing solar systems? Solar systems have a sun in the middle and planets, and each planet has a moon? What? You see, you're not making sense. You're just showing your scientific illiteracy here. Absolutely, patently, obviously. It's embarrassing. So, you're then pointing out that as that planet, its face is constantly facing the star, the same face of that planet is constantly facing the star. One side of that planet is extremely cold and the other side of that planet is extremely hot. How very true. But then again, you start babbling, and you actually are babbling incoherently at this stage, about how the Quran talks about how Allah puts in day and night as a sign of his... I forgot exactly what you said. I don't care in any case. The point is that you are showing a deplorable lack of imagination here, because life in some shape or form could exist as some ooze, single cellular ooze. Even the sort of life that we are used to in this planet, that needs a certain range of temperatures and liquid water and so on, could exist as some sort of indescript ooze in the twilighty parts of that planet. Who's to say that that's not the case? I would never be as bald as that scientist to say that I am 100% sure that it's there. Of course not. But it's possible. I'm telling you, let me tell you something else, my friend. It is even still possible that we might not have to go as far as 20 light years to find life elsewhere in this universe. We might still find it on Europa under conditions that are comparable in some way to those on Earth, or on Titan under conditions that are very different. And if we did find life there, we would find life that is of a type that is very different to what we're used to now, here on Earth. That is still possible. So you are right. Let me just get to that point, finally. You are right in saying that we are special. We are definitely unique in any case. Because we, and this is where you completely lose the plot. You are pointing out that we are special, and that there is nowhere in the universe where you'll find life of the same caliber as human life. In one sense you are right. In one sense you are absolutely right. I can state quite confidently, not with certainty but quite confidently, that nowhere in this universe will we find life that is like us, that is like human beings. Why not? Because we evolved over almost 5 billion years on a planet that occupies a very specific place in its solar system, that has a very specific rate of rotation, that happens to have a satellite that keeps its rotation fairly stable, and so on and so forth. Those are quite unique circumstances, and we evolved to match those circumstances. And that is where the Quran and Allah and you are completely barking up the wrong tree, my friend. Allah did not create day and night in order to make life possible. Even if Allah existed, it created day and night, and life evolved to adapt to these unique circumstances that we find on this planet. Yes, our life as we know it, especially our multicellular life as we know it on this planet, would almost certainly cease to exist if any of those circumstances changed significantly. If the length of our day changed significantly, if the moon suddenly buggered off into space, it would change significantly, and we might not be able to cope with that circumstance. But that is a far cry from asserting that life comparable in some way to human life could not exist out there in the universe anywhere. That is an absurd notion. The more we find out about the universe, the more we find that there are places in the universe in which circumstances are conducive to the possibility of some form of life existing. And if that is true for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of places in this universe, it stands to reason that it is almost certain, or quite likely at the very least, but do not ask me to put percentages on this, because there are way too many variables there to be able to say anything definitively. And again, let me go back to this scientist and his inexcusable hubris of saying that he was almost 100% sure. That is true, that is inexcusable. But that doesn't mean that we can dismiss the possibility of life of a complexity that is comparable to humanity existing in this universe at all. That we can just dismiss that out of hand, as you are doing. No other planet can sustain life like Earth. Prove me wrong. And that is where I have the biggest issue with your video. I will not be bullied into this big switcheroo of people like you. Prove me wrong? No, my friend. You are making the extraordinary claim here. If anybody has to prove anything, it's you. And good luck to you.